We're back, baby. It's the charity stripe. Hit your free throws because they're free. Joshua Fisher, Nikki Snacks, Kreider at you here right now. Go follow us on Instagram at the.charity.stripe or on Twitter at _charity stripe _ Alex tossed me the rock. Tosopoulos is feeling a little bit under the weather. We are wishing him well. Nick, baseball is almost at the halfway point. It's a sport you and I love. It's a sport that last year or over the past 2 years, you and I have, quite frankly, railed against and have had a plethora of issues stemming from the top down. The way the COVID season was handled, and we look at a lot of records. Look at Pujols' record, right? Like we're just chasing 700. And had there not been a COVID year, would he have been at 700 already? It's a high possibility. Or would he have a better chance to? He's 15 away right now, and it's looking a little bleak. We thought Manfred's handling of that was piss poor. 2021 was a better season, but this season to me, I feel baseball is really stepping back into the national spotlight. I don't know if it's me falling more in love with it again after kind of having a little affair with basketball over the past couple of years, but I really feel baseball has done an excellent job at promoting its stars. And there's been a lot of great play to come on where there were major all-star snubs, but a lot of them were almost justifiable.
Mm-hmm.
Issue, obviously, and you and I have discussed this ad nauseum of like, hey, like, not everyone gets a participation trophy. And there's no one on the Diamondbacks that really deserves to be an all-star. So there's no one on the Diamondbacks that should be an all-star. And I feel that guys like Freddie Freeman, who were a major snub, Austin Riley, these guys clearly should have been all-stars. And they're ironically, since the all-star game
is in LA.
And the rosters have been announced. Those guys have been scorching hot. But a lot of deserving guys that didn't make it, but a lot of guys that made it obviously really deserved it. And there's been a lot of great seasons so far. We've pretty much nailed in stone the first half MVP for the NL is Paul Goldschmidt.
Definitely.
For the St. Louis Cardinals. Your boy Manny Machado was on strong, fell off, back on strong,
got
which
hurt.
is exciting to see. Got hurt, yeah. And it's exciting to see. And it should be noted that from a non-statistical standpoint, what he's meant to this team with Tatis Jr. out. Yes. So I think that should carry some weight in his
and his glove too.
When the time comes, absolutely. Now, we went to the AL. And this is my question for you, because I think both Cy Young's the first half. It's McClanahan on the Rays, for sure, for me, and Alcantara on the Marlins. Both guys have been dynamite. Not to say nothing. Musgrove, Burns, Verlander. There's been a lot of it. Gonsolin, he got lit up a little bit last night, but there's a lot of times where he got out of jams late in the game, and that shows me prowess. Like a guy that could stick in a game. He's given up 5 runs already. He could stick in five plus innings and kind of get out of things and not force you to eat into your bullpen. And the Dodgers actually ended up winning that game. Gonsolin's been great, but who's the AL MVP for you right now? It's tough, but I think
it's got to be Judge.
You think Judge?
Yeah, I mean, look, Ohtani's close. Just based
on
what he's doing, like what he did last year. But, man, Aaron Judge is 30 home runs, and it's still not even the All-Star break yet, and it's the best team in baseball. I know the average isn't as high, but, I mean, Ohtani's average isn't that high.
Yeah, I mean, Ohtani is the top 5 Cy Young candidate, twirled an absolute gem. He's got 4 straight games of 10-plus Ks. 4 straight games of 10+ strikeouts, the only Angel to do so since no one wild. And he hit a triple, like a 2 RBI triple last night. Is it almost the LeBron effect already on Ohtani, or the Trout effect?
No, I don't think it's that. I think because the Trout effect, I don't even think is valid, because Trout has won multiple MVPs. Ohtani's only won one of them. And I still think people still give love to Trout if he is playing well enough that he'd win an MVP. People love Mike Trout. But the fact that he is stuck on the Angels, Mike Trout and Ohtani, definitely hurts them. Judge is on the best team in baseball. I mean, that holds a lot of merit when it comes to winning an MVP. I know in years past, Mike Trout's won and the Angels didn't make the playoffs, but this is the New York Yankees we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If he hits, is there a magic number of home runs that he'll hit that'll lock it in?
For Judge?
Mm-hmm. Let's say his average is in like the 280 to 290 range.
Yeah, I would say the 100% lock, like no question whatsoever, is 60, of course.
Yeah, I mean, he hit 60
But
bombs. Better
I think honestly, I think if he's hitting 50, I think he's still a lock.
Okay, 50. I think that's a fair benchmark. So that was my first question for the AL MVP. I mean, rookie of the year across the board. I mean, it's
Julio Rodriguez.
Julio Rodriguez in a rocket ship. But first of all, and I would say it's probably Spencer Strider now in Atlanta. Maybe. I mean, he's striking out guys like I get it at an Ohtani pace.
Unfortunately, Gore has definitely tailored off a little bit. Had some rough starts, but he can. Here's the thing: he's been shut down from starting until the All-Star break, which I mean that's only a few more days. He's basically missing a start, and he's going to just do some bullpen activity. But that's just to give him some rest and to limit his innings a little bit, and to get him back on track. So he can come back strong in the second half. And he's been a solid pitcher. You know, I think he's an above average pitcher in the league right now.
I mean, totally.
He still has a chance at winning it. And then Abrams just hasn't had enough at bats and enough time in the major league because he's been up and down. But as of late, he has been playing very good baseball. So we'll see if he actually stays on the roster when Tatis comes back and can be a contributing everyday player who can actually contend, because the second half can always bring good fortune to these rookies. I mean, keep in mind, Will Myers didn't play a full season when he won his Rookie of the Year with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, happens all the time. Here, let me give you the odds at betonline.ag. Go to betonline.ag today. Use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEA.
Or tomorrow.
Or tomorrow.
Or next day.
Or anytime you want, get 50% off your welcome bonus. This is crazy because it's Julio Rodriguez has pretty much locked it up.
Right.
Like, and his odds.
He's an all-star. There's no other all-star rookies.
I mean, people were like Jeremy Pena secret snub, but like he's been great though. He's minus 280.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a good bet still.
Yeah, it is a good bet. The only thing I think you would be just cautious of is if he gets hurt. But I still think if he gets hurt, he's probably still winning it, right?
He has to play honestly till mid-August, and he's locked it in.
Yeah,
like there's really, first of all, they are legitimately the hottest team in baseball, tied with the Orioles.
They're scorching.
We'll segue this into the next point because it's trade deadline talk. The Mariners are a team that we bought. There were three teams early on that we bought into, or at least one of which I had bought into, two of which we both had bought into, that were flailing in the AL, the White Sox and the Mariners. The White Sox have been a complete disappointment. There's no reason that they have not. Why they haven't fired Tony La Russa yet is literally beyond me. I know there was the Lance Lynn injury, and they've dealt with some injuries here and there, and Eloy Jimenez just can't stay on the field, it seems. But that roster is too talented. They've made too many moves, and they should be better than at least in the Guardians, what team we thought was going to drop. But we thought maybe they could be sneaky, and they are. But like, they should be in the mix for the AL Central. The AL Central is not particularly strong. The Mariners were the other team. Julio Rodriguez, Ty France, J.P. Crawford. They had a lot of revelations in the Mariners, but they signed Robbie Ray, and he had a really bad start to the year. You know, and things just weren't pieced together for them. And all of a sudden they've strung together 10 wins in a row, and they're in the wild card picture.
Yeah. We bought into them very early on. And I think some of the things that we both had concerns for, but at the same time, there showed promise for, was that this team is so young.
Yeah.
And that happens with a young team, right? You start off slow and then you mesh together and you find your secret sauce, and then you start winning 10 ball games in a row, which they've done thus far. So I'm really excited to see their second half. I think that they are a team that is seriously, I wouldn't put them as maybe a World Series contender, but you never know who can make it in there and sneak it in there. But I mean, look, they're 11 games out of first place right now in the AL West. So I don't think they're really catching the Astros unless they go on a 30-game win streak. But the wild card is up for grabs.
6 spots this year. There's 6 teams that make the playoffs.
Yeah.
6 teams that make the playoffs this year. They have Robbie Ray and Logan Gilbert, 2 great guys to roll out.
Mm-hmm. Now they can make moves too. They've got a farm.
Yeah, they can make moves. They can definitely make moves still. The Suarez and Winker deal didn't look good, but Suarez has been scorching hot in this streak.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have faith that Winker could really put together a decent season. Obviously, the J-Rod show, obviously Ty France. I do think it would behoove them to go and just, this is really pretty much goes for any kind of contender. Whatever bullpen piece you can go pick off somebody, go get. Can you go get a bullpen piece? Now, the interesting thing is we were talking about the Orioles being sellers, but are they? Do you think the Orioles should still sell a little bit?
Yes.
and make for the future, because this is not sustainable?
Yes, I do. They're also on a 10-game win streak, if you haven't heard. They're 1 game over 500, but I mean, they're chasing 17.5 games from the Yankees. They're last place in their division. I mean, that division's a gauntlet. I didn't expect it to be so competitive. We knew that Toronto and the Yankees, and we had, some feeling that Tampa Bay is always competitive, but Boston started off slow. But every single team in that division is over 500 right now. So I don't think they have a shot at all to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a massive surprise.
You know what? I take that back. They're 2 games back right now from the wild card, but I don't think it's sustainable. I mean, you mentioned a team like the White Sox that right now is underperforming. Like, are they better than the White Sox realistically on paper? Like, the White Sox can turn it around really quickly. The
100%.
Cleveland, I think, is even better. I mean, the Rangers even have a better roster. So there's teams that right now that are just underperforming that I think are better than Baltimore. Baltimore's got to continue the rebuild. They got to stay the course. They do have good pieces on their team, but there are some guys with expiring contracts or guys that are performing well that are on the cheap that they can go off and get some big pieces for. I'm looking at Jorge Lopez, and like a lot of teams could use him right now in their bullpen.
Anybody could use him. He's an all-star, and a deserving all-star, actually. Not just an all-star. Like, hey, we need to throw in an Oriole. Like a deserving all-star.
Yeah, he's got a sub-2 ERA.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Rangers, who are plus in run differential, but under 500, which is kind of rare.
Yeah, with 2 guys making $500 million.
But both of them are coming on a little bit too. Like, they both started off horribly.
But of course, neither of them make an all-star team this year. It's funny. All the guys that we're talking about that don't make all-star teams, we mentioned Freddie Freeman. We're mentioning Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. These are all guys, and Winker, these are all guys that are in brand new teams.
They were all-stars last year. Or prior years, yeah. It's crazy. But that's the AL side. I mean, John Gray's been good, and Perez has been good for them. It's really going to be an interesting second half. And in the NL side of things, it's crazy that you guys are 8.5 back. You have 50 games.
Yeah, it was like me and Heath Bell were talking about on our podcast, Ring the Bell Pods Talk. If you like Padres baseball, go and check it out. Ring the Bell Pods Talk with the 3-time All-Star Heath Bell. We were talking about it yesterday, that we were 2-3 weeks ago, the Padres were in first place and then just flipped on its head.
That team is almost too good. I think Dodgers, that they are the best team in baseball. They're very good. They are playing very good baseball right now, and they're on a really crazy hot streak. But you also have to consider that the Padres are a good team as well, but they're exhausted. They're injured. They're playing a lot of games in a row. Their leaders are going down. They've got to be the most banged up team in baseball by far. I mean, you start the season with Tatis on the IL, still is even back. Machado goes down for a little bit. Your bullpen, you got Pomerantz, Castillo, Pierce Johnson. Profar's out right now. I mean, it's so banged up, and it's not banged up from just like a
just there's a couple position players. No, it's like big contributors. Will Myers right now has just started his rehab. Blake Snell started on the IL. Clevenger started on the IL. I mean, think of any guy on this roster. For the most part, they've been injured. So we're hoping the second half brings good fortune and some health to the team. But, Heath and I talked about it yesterday. Like, there just seems to be a lack of mojo. These guys have a much needed all-star break coming up to hit the reset button.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think the Dodgers, to put a little devil's advocate, Chris Taylor's hurt, big contributor.
Yeah. Mookie was hurt for a little bit.
Mookie was hurt. Walker Buehler's been out. The Dodgers, to me,
they're deep, though. They're way deeper.
They are so deep because you obviously have Freddie. Muncy and Justin Turner have been underwhelming, but Mookie's back. Trey Turner is a top 10 player in baseball, and Gavin Lux has actually come to fruition and been really good. And not to mention, Clayton Kershaw has been dynamite this year.
He is for sure. How many years do you think he has left?
I don't know. He's pitching well. How old? He's 34. Here's the deal.
You know what? He's got a lot left in the tank. If he's 34 years old, I mean, we've seen guys pitch in their 40s.
Yeah, but he gets hurt. So look, he hasn't pitched. He hasn't had 30 starts since 2015.
Yeah, so maybe once he gets later on in his career. I mean, he's an all-star this season.
He's an all-star, but I think if they win this year, he's done.
No, I don't know. I think if he gets later on in his career, maybe just he's on like an innings count.
I just don't think he's the kind of guy that's going to get to that point. He gives me he's already 34. So I was about to say he gives me Andrew Luck vibes, but that's not even like Andrew Luck was for young.
Yeah,
young. This guy's 34. He's won already. He's won multiple Cy Youngs, won MVP. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer in a Rocket. He's probably the best pitcher, truthfully, that in our lifetime we've seen.
Yeah, like in terms of like an entire career.
Yeah, we missed the first half of Randy, Roger, Pedro.
I would say if you compartmentalize a little bit and you just kind of break it down to guys with a couple of seasons, like best pitch, like DeGrom. I've never seen anything like DeGrom, but it's a thing of sustainability and longevity, of course. And DeGrom's had multiple injuries, and that hurts a career pretty hard. But I mean, DeGrom's not that much younger than Kershaw, right?
No,
and are we going to say DeGrom's going to hang it up? But he's got more to prove, I think.
A lot.
I don't know. I could see Kershaw playing for another 3 to 4 years.
That's a lot. I mean, I would love it. I mean, he's been a part of our lives as a legitimate starter since 2008.
Yeah, 20 years old.
Since we were in middle school. He was a legitimate ace, and it's he's been going for almost 15 years. It's crazy, and I think one more World Series, I think he could. There's a chance he could hang it up. But there's one caveat: he's going to want the 3,000 strikeouts. He's too good of a strikeout pitcher to not get the 3,000 Ks.
Yeah,
so that could be the one thing holding it up. That would, even if they won, would give him one more season.
Yeah, right now he is 261 strikeouts away as it stands right now. Which that's going to take at least 2 seasons.
This rest of this
2
season,
extra seasons.
It might.
Because he's sitting at 69 strikeouts. Nice. This season. And I mean, his highest strikeouts was 301, but there's no chance he's getting that. That's crazy. He threw 301 strikeouts in a season.
Yeah, I mean, Sale. I think Sale. What did Sale top out at 3 something? I think didn't Verlander 3 years ago hit 300. So did Garrett Cole. Remember when they were dueling for the MVP? I mean, the Cy Young. 300 is so much. What did Chris Sale? Chris Sale did 308.
I get tennis elbow after throwing a couple of softballs on a Tuesday night.
Where does Chris Sale at his best go for you?
In terms of just all-time pitchers, or just right now?
No, guys we've seen in the last decade.
He's electric, man. He's up there, but it's another thing where it's it sucks that injuries kind of tarnish the value of a pitcher, because to be a valuable pitcher, you got to be able to get out there and stay healthy. And Chris Sale has played how many games in the last 3 or 4 years?
I mean, he's been injured every year. It's been
Disaster.
unfortunate. It's been a disaster. It's been unfortunate. But he pitched well in his return against the Rays, even though we got swept by them. He pitched well in his return against the Rays, and that was awesome to see. And he's going to be a major part. I don't think anyone's catching the Yankees, but he's going to be a major part in the Sox potentially solidifying the top wild card spot, which would be massive. We're the Charity Stripe. We'll be back in just a hot second. Don't move the dial. Nikki Snacks Kreider, Joshua Fisher, hit your free throws.
What up, YouTube? Gang, gang. Walking the wrong way.
All right, here we go. 3, 2. We're back, baby. Once again, it's the Charity Stripe. Pitch your free throws because they're free. Joshua Fisher, Nikki Snacks Kreider. We're brought to you by Sonos. Go to Sonos now. Use the promo code Stripe. Get 20% off products. Sonos is great. Go to it right now. I just got a notification. Ethereum's up 5%. We love to see that.
Wow.
Who's in?
You have notifications on for that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of very depressing notifications, but notifications nonetheless.
How's Doge doing these days?
Doge is mid. Doge is not doing great. Held on to that too long. But
that whole phrase that's mid, I understand the context of how people are using that's mid, but isn't it not like a really good term for something that is crap? Because like mid means like middle tier, average, OPS 100, right? That's mid. Shouldn't it be like weak or like low?
Yeah, but that doesn't like weak is like already been used. It's been like recycled. It's not new.
Okay, so find a synonym for weak.
Synonym for weak, like dece. But that's already been used.
Yeah, it's decent. I don't know.
Meh.
Or like mediocre.
Mead.
That's mead.
We could do that. We could amend it mid to mead.
Yeah,
I'm down for that. But yeah, Dogecoin is meh. Ethereum, like I couldn't know less about it. I just put my money in it haphazardly and pray that it works again. But it's good to get a notification that Ethereum's on the rise. A lot of changes happened in crypto. A lot of changes also happened in college football in the off season. And I've gotten into several debates with people about these mega conferences. And we've touched upon the individual schools and their switching of conferences. But I would love to hear your thoughts, Nick, on how you feel the mega conferences that are forming, the SEC, Texas and OU joining the SEC. That'll happen in 2025. USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten. That'll happen in 2024. And there's looking to be more teams that'll join. What are your thoughts on these mega conferences coming to light, good or bad?
It doesn't really bother me either way. I think a lot of us are very scared sometimes of change.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe scared's not the right word. Maybe it's just we just don't want things to change because we enjoy how things are right now.
Yeah.
But to build greatness, you need to be able to adapt and you need to be able to institute change. And I believe that these super conferences or these mega conferences, whatever you want to call it, will be the groundwork for a playoff system in college football.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I truly believe, because if you stack too many good teams into one conference, teams are going to get left out of the mix when it comes to a 4-team playoff. It's just bound to happen. There's too many good teams that are going to eat each other up, and it's going to be like the Pac-12 every single year where it cannibalizes each other, where teams get shut out because they lose 1 game or 2 games to another team. So let's say Texas, Bama, Georgia, LSU, Auburn. Let's say they invite Clemson, whoever, OU. I'd say all these teams are great and they're all in the same conference. And let's say a couple of them have 2 losses. You're telling me that they're going to get kept out of the playoff? No. I think that's blasphemous. I think we open it up and there becomes an 8 playoff team mix or maybe even a 16 team mix. Who sees what happens? But it's the move in the right direction to opening up that playoff, because that's the biggest thing right now when it comes to college football in terms of the structure of the gameplay and the structure of how teams win, not transfer aside, recruiting aside, NIL aside. The single biggest thing to the game itself right now is the lack of playoff teams.
Yeah. And look, we could get all up in arms about recruiting, but the two teams in our conference, the Big 12, that went to the Big 12 title game last year were OK State and Baylor, and they didn't recruit as well as OU or Texas.
And they never will.
They never will. So it's really recruiting, yes, NIL is exciting. How are you going to develop these guys and implement your scheme? I love the point of the college playoff that nobody's talking about, because that was that's been the biggest issue of college football before NIL has come, and
for
before
years.
Massive issue for years is like not enough teams are getting in there. There was a 1 year where I think it was like TCU got shut out and they probably should have been in it, but even then Ohio State won, and you don't know what's going to happen. There's a year where Alabama was the 4 and they won. Like there's all these things that happen, but there's always that 5th or 6th team that it would just be great to watch them in the college football playoff, or they deserve to be in. Like UCF has had that couple chances, and we gave Cincinnati a chance this year and it didn't really work out. But I think it's a situation where this does open it up, because you're not going to shut that 2-loss team out. It also doesn't make, it is a little exciting to like, hey, every game literally counts in college football.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of times, I even remember that USC team, that USC Penn State game, that Rose Bowl game with Sam Darnold is one of the best college football games I've seen in the last 10 years. And that USC team with Sam Darnold had 2 losses, but it would have been fun to watch them go to the playoff, but they had no chance of making it because they had 2 losses, but they probably should have.
Yes. I think you're right. It is exciting that every game counts, but in what sport, in any sport at all, does every single game count in the season besides college football? Like
None.
you can be able to afford to lose 1 or even 2 games and still win a championship and still be considered the best team in college football. I mean, sometimes strength of schedule is just what plays in your favor, right? Like Clemson had cakewalks into getting in some of those national championships. And yes, they won. But at the same time, are we sitting here saying that they were the outright best team in college football? Maybe one of those years, but at the same time, their strength of schedule was nowhere near what Bama was playing.
The last time they got into the playoff, Trevor Lawrence, last time they got in, so they didn't get in last year, but the year before, Ohio State wiped the floor with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that Bama team, which did not get the same love that LSU team got, which did not get the same love that Cam Newton or the Tebow teams got, and even some other Bama teams. But that Bama team might have been the best Bama team I've ever seen, with Mac Jones at the helm. They then wiped the floor with Ohio State. They crushed Ohio State.
Right.
And Justin Fields. After Justin Fields hung 7 touchdowns on Clemson.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to sit there and tell me that Clemson should have been in the playoff?
Probably not. They probably wasn't their year.
You have to put them in there, but like at the same time, open it up for more teams. 100%. We also all love to see a Cinderella story, right? We see it every single year in college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Why not put a mid-conference team inside, and just to see if they can shake things up and make some noise and get the nation behind them. And also the NCAA has always been about money. They've always cared about revenue and how much money they can make. I've never seen why they don't want to expand it to make more money. It's more games. It's more national spotlight. That's more advertisements.
Their hand is gonna be forced with these mega conferences, and I also think we're in a position where like some of the best games we get to see are when there's like Bama versus Texas, the cross conference, Oregon versus Ohio State. Like we love those games. Like why wouldn't you want more of those? Why don't you want more of the powerhouse games? Like how many? Yeah. There's like 2 weekends every year where we look at the schedule and like outside of our team's game, like
it's boring.
It's boring.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch Ohio State, Nebraska. No offense, Nebraska. I want to watch Ohio State, USC.
Mm-hmm.
I want to watch Ohio State versus Notre Dame. Ohio. I want to watch Clemson versus Wake Forest. Yeah, I know Wake Forest has put together a nice little team, but no, I don't. Not really. I'll watch it because I love football, But give me Clemson versus Georgia. Give me Clemson versus Auburn. Give me Clemson versus LSU in the Battle of Death Valleys. Like give me that every weekend.
Yeah.
And anybody's like, oh, like the travel, like this. We've talked.
We're beyond that.
We're beyond that.
We're modern technology and how automobiles work these days. We're beyond the travel factor.
I'll tell you that I took a bus recently as an adult from the Netherlands to France, and I was fine. A coach bus, which is pretty much borderline hitchhike there.
Yeah. Hey,
and
look, guys like Steve Aoki play like 4 shows a weekend in different cities, and they fly from Vegas to Miami to London, back to Miami, back to Vegas, all within 2 days usually. So don't tell me you can't perform when a DJ
plus, like
Steve Aoki can, and he's throwing those takes with pinpoint accuracy.
Would he have been a good quarterback in another life?
For sure. If the 1090 listeners don't know who Steve Aoki is, and I'm sure there's a lot of them out there, he is a DJ that has a residency in Vegas, and one of his trademark moves is to throw a cake at someone in the crowd. And every time he throws a cake, he is spot on, because there's always fans that have signs that say "cake me," and he usually nails them. So yeah,
why don't you do
in another life
like that
for my DJing?
You should hit somebody with like a handful of raisinets.
What?
Raisinets.
What are raisinets?
Bro, what? Like chocolate covered raisins.
That's such a weak thing to throw at people.
I know, but it's hilarious. Like, imagine you're like jamming and rocking out and like vibing to your set, and next thing you know, you get pelted by a couple of like chocolate covered raisins.
Hey, look, I'm down for a company to like reach out and be like, hey, like Nikki Snacks, this is our snack that we want you to start throwing at people in crowds. We'll pay you, $500,000 every single show to throw them out.
All right. What kind of deal have you ever been a part of where they pay you $500K? That's ridiculous. It'd be like you got to pick.
Well, I don't know. Alvin Kamara probably had some Skittles endorsements. I'm sure Marshawn Lynch did too.
Yeah, I mean, you got it. Skittles would be a good one. It's got to be.
That's been done.
Yeah, it's been done. You need something like soft, but that's not going to make an absolute mess, which is tough.
Marshmallows.
Dude. Now we're talking. That'd be
sick. But then there's the DJ Marshmallow already, and like, is that like, oh, like he's disrespecting Marshmallow?
Yeah, it's kind of a rip. But I think we're getting there though. Like, it can't be a jawbreaker.
No, not like the golf ball size jawbreakers.
No, and it can't be like a Cheez-It where there's just gonna be crumbs everywhere.
Goldfish, that'd be fun.
Still,
there's crumbs. Yeah, but like, come on, these venues, their least of their concerns are crumbs when there's shows getting played. I think there's a lot more foul things on the ground than crumbs from Cheez-Its.
It's true.
Not to mention there probably are Cheez-It crumbs out there because people that are drinking and doing other fun things during concerts are normally hungry too and bring snacks.
It's true. And who doesn't want some Cheez-Its being thrown out from the sky?
Unless you're lactose.
Oh yeah. Wow, I've never even considered that from a Cheez-It standpoint.
Sneaky.
It's very sneaky. Back to college football. I do think that the mega conference thing to me in the long run is going to be great for the college football playoff. It's going to be great for viewership because it's going to give us the games we want. And ultimately, I think it could even benefit some teams in recruiting in a weird way, because on the cup half empty side, you're viewing it as, okay, the top tier teams are just going to run the table on the new teams. They're just going to make mincemeat of the lower tier teams. But a team like UCLA, we've given all the credit to USC coming to the Big Ten. UCLA won 8 games last year.
They did.
They went 8-4. If UCLA has another good season, what if UCLA wins the Pac-12 this year? It's not impossible at all. If UCLA wins the Pac-12 this year, then all of a sudden, recruiting-wise, it's going to take a step up. It'll take another step up in the Big Ten. And what if they go to the Big Ten and win some games? UCLA all of a sudden could be a team that's in better shape and could be on the rise.
Yeah,
And in basketball too. We're just talking about football.
Yeah, well, basketball, I think that their recruiting speaks for itself, just because it's such a historic program. Like, they're gonna get recruits no matter what.
Yeah.
And yes, they haven't been the historic UCLA as of late that they were in years prior, but they're consistently in the tournament and making deep runs. So I would not be shocked if UCLA won a natty in basketball anytime soon. I'd be shocked if they won football, but they're turning it around. They're getting in the right direction. It would not be surprising whatsoever if they won the Pac-12. Although I do think USC has it this year, just based on all the transfers they got and Caleb Williams being a potential Heisman candidate and a brand new head coach in Lincoln Riley. But there's growing pains that they need to figure out. UCLA, however, is going to benefit immensely from this move, just in recruiting. Recruits are going to want to play better talent, but at the same time, be in Los Angeles, right? If let's say, they're picking between an East Coast school or like a Midwest school in California, but you still get to play those Midwest games in a big conference, I'm picking California all day.
100%.
And keep in mind as well, like, yes, of course, USC is like a competitor with UCLA in terms of recruiting, but these schools only have so many scholarships to give out. Like, there's plenty of recruits that are still available for you to get. Like, each team,
so many roster spots too.
Yeah, and there's so many recruits on a high level, 4-star, 5-star, doesn't matter what star they are. There's going to be enough players to go around for UCLA and USC to both be successful.
And the head coach of UCLA, people forget,
Chip Kelly,
Chip Kelly, who has had a tumultuous few years, but when he was at Oregon, was the guy.
He was, and then went to the NFL and didn't have such success.
He was solid, and then he kind of took too much control and bit off more than he can chew. Flamed out in Philly, flopped in San Fran, goes back to college, but what he could potentially do with some real recruits at UCLA, even what he took Mariota from a 4-star guy to then not the top not top quarterback in that class by any means in his recruiting class, to the 2nd overall pick
and a Heisman finalist
and a Heisman winner.
Yeah, sorry. Jeez, forgot about that.
Yeah, he won. And so the right guy in Chip Kelly and Dorian Thompson could be that guy this year. The right guy in this system can really make some waves. So I think this UCLA team, and you bring up a great point, like at that point, I'd rather go play in sunny California. There's only one quarterback that could start for USC, so you might as well go play at UCLA. It's a really interesting point. I do want to touch on one more thing before we rock and roll.
Let's do it.
The Utah Jazz, it looks like they're going to trade Donovan Mitchell, and it looks like it's going to be to the Knicks. They're the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
The Raptors have been mentioned. There's been a bevy of like 4-team trade scenarios, because here's the deal. Obviously, the two main pieces to fall are DeAndre Ayton, who is going to the Pacers, but they haven't signed him yet. So I don't really know what's up with that. It's which seems to be the snag in there is the sign and trade that would send DeAndre Ayton to the Pacers, Things to the Nets, and KD to the Suns. Now the Utah Jazz have entered the fray. And Donovan Mitchell has long been rumored to go back home to New York. There's 2 teams in New York, one of them obviously being the Brooklyn Nets. Now, Donovan Mitchell, because of the Rose Rule, 2 max guys on their rookie contracts can't be on the same team if they've been traded for. So you can't trade for Ben Simmons and then go and trade for Donovan Mitchell. So Ben Simmons would have to leave the team if the Nets were to enter this 14 deal.
Which I don't think is going to happen.
Which it's too complicated. First of all, Ben Simmons, when he's playing, is an all-star player, but I don't want that, honestly. I almost don't. That's not what, if I'm the Utah Jazz, I'm trying to do. If we get a lot of picks, maybe, but that's not kind of the direction I'm trying to take. I think the Knicks represent the best possible deal in a 1-for-1. Don't get too fancy with the spices. The Raptors could be interesting with OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr. and some picks. Move him there with Fred VanVleet, Siakam, Scotty Barnes. I mean, the East would be so scary. But if you're the Knicks, I would be really hesitant to give up RJ Barrett to get Donovan Mitchell. And that's what I want to say.
Would you?
Yeah, I would. I don't think Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, gets you a title. It just doesn't. But Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Julius Randle, and if you could somehow keep RJ Barrett, that's a dangerous team. That's a team that can get in the playoffs. That other team, Mead. Spida, Brunson, Randall, Mead. They're not better than the Celtics. They're not better than the Sixers. They're not better than the Bucks. They're probably not better than the Hawks, realistically. I don't know how to get past the Heat. Cleveland, Charlotte, they represent tough tasks to get past. And then the Bulls. I don't know if that helps. But if those four guys together, because I'm really anticipating RJ taking that next step this year. That's just me. But I wanted to bring that point to light, that not including RJ in the deal, and this is probably an obvious point, really makes them a contender. But if you include RJ in the deal, I don't really think it moves the needle enough.
Well, look, we talked about if Damian Lillard were to sign in New York and bring Knicks basketball back, he'd be the king of New York, right? And Donovan Mitchell's young enough and talented enough and has enough potential, right? I think he can also be that guy. Yes, you need other pieces around him to do that, but I think he's already solidified himself as a superstar. And I think that's what Knicks basketball needs. They need a face. They need someone that can bring back the glory days. I mean, if they ever had any glory days, but
their 70s, the 90s were nice. Yeah, and they can bring back the glory days. And I think you're right. I mean, they do need a face, so it's a move. It's a good move in that direction. But I don't think they need to give up RJ Barrett,
the new king of the North.
The new king. Wow, I know you're rewatching Game of Thrones, so yeah, the new king of the North is exciting. Potential tag for Donovan Mitchell. But we're the charity stripe. Speaking of tags, drag both feet inbound, swing on a full count, rip that puck, hit your PKs because they free, and hit your free throws. Why, Nick?
Because they're free.
Because they're free. We out you. We love ya.